glad you can be here tonight to engage in some contemplative practice. I had a class earlier today, and I always enjoy these times because it means that I will practice. I can't procrastinate. So I welcome you all. Just a heads up, and I may remember this at the end as well, but I'll say it now. On the Unitarian Universalist website in Portage, there's information there on the calendar, and I don't know if it's in the slider yet, but I will be having a retreat on April 13th at the Unitarian Church in Portage on Shaver Road. It'll be 9:30 to 2:30, and it's a bring your own lunch type situation, and we have some drinks there for you, coffee and tea. And it will be an expanded set of practices from what we'll be doing tonight, but I typically do some body scan work. I do some breath awareness work, some effortless mindfulness type stuff, and some compassion practices as well. We'll do a little walking meditation, and there's opportunities to ask questions and to debrief at the end. So it's a nice day of practice. It's not too long. And we had a really good one back in January. People seem to enjoy it. So if you'd like to come, it's free. And just show up, maybe 10 minutes before about 9:20, 9:25. You can bring a mat if you like. You can bring a cushion and things like that. But you can also go to our website, get more information, and register there as well. So welcome, everyone. I think I'll start with just a brief reading. And if you want, Deborah, you can go ahead and pin me.
You are pinned.
Oh, all I see is the logo. Okay. I don't see myself. That's fine. This is a poem by Derek Walcott. Love After Love is the title. The time will come when with elation you'll greet your old self, arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself, give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you may have ignored for another, but who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photograph, the desperate notes, peel your own image from the mirror, sit, feast on your life. Derek Walcott. So if you want to settle in, we'll move into some practice for about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. I never quite know. And just to begin, just noticing your posture. If you're sitting in a chair, you might want to be somewhat upright with the back fairly straight. If you're in a reclining chair, that's fine as well. Just know that you might slip off into sleep, which is okay as well, as long as you're muted. They won't hear you if you make any noises. And the posture is helpful. So feet flat on the floor if possible. Back somewhat straight. The chin can be tipped down slightly. And the shoulders can be somewhat back so that the chest is open. And we'll begin with the eyes if you want. The eyes can be closed, or if you'd rather, they can just be half closed, maybe looking down 4 or 5 feet in front of you towards the floor. But this reduces the visual distractions. And as we begin, just checking in with your motivation. So just kind of reviewing why are you taking this time to do some practice today? And just be honest. There's no reason to judge ourselves, whatever it might be. Maybe it's just to have a little quietude.
It's almost exotic lands.
I think we may have an intruder, Deb, if you want to Yeah, thank you. And so this checking in, maybe it's peace of mind, relaxation, whatever it might be for your motivation. Maybe it's something bigger than that. And then just maybe noticing what you might want to work on in this particular practice session. Maybe it's noticing when the mind wanders, or noticing if the body is getting stressed or contracted, and just bringing some softness or relaxation. Maybe it's to let go of being judgmental on whether you're doing the practice correct or not, but whatever goal it might be. And then just checking into expectations. Be gentle with yourself and just find enjoyment in this practice no matter what happens. So there's no specific outcome that we're looking for. There's no bad meditation. Whatever happens, happens. That's a big part of this practice, is being able to receive what is with acceptance and with an open, kind heart, whether it's pleasurable or pleasant or unpleasant. And then just having some resolve to stay with the practice as best you can. And finally, just noticing anything that may be weighting on your mind heavy, some distraction that might come up, something from the past, something that you're planning for or concerned about the future, and just notice those, what those might be. Acknowledge that they're there. And then just giving yourself permission to let those things kind of fall to the background, knowing that you can get to those later after we're done with our practice today. So just creating the opportunity and the space to just be present with what is in this moment, with no need to attend to the past or the future, but just resting in the now, which is the only place we ever really are. So just beginning now with 5 slow, deep breaths, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And soften and relax on each exhale. Now we'll shift to just bringing our attention to the body as a whole. And we do that by just noticing sensations in the body, on the skin and in the body, whether pleasant or unpleasant, just noticing as they come and go. And as we notice the body, just noticing the air contacting the skin. And as we notice that contact with the air, just connecting to the space in the room, the air in the room. So there's kind of this sense of a spacious awareness of the body and the room, both present in this moment. So there's kind of an awareness of the connectedness between the skin, the air, and the room. And we'll shift the attention just again now just to the body itself. Again, just being with sensations in the body. The mind may name certain sensations, that's fine, but if you want, there's no need to even name anything. It's just being with the various sensations of vibration in the body. It's sensing into the whole of the body and resting there. We'll move into a body scan where we notice specific parts of the body and the sensations associated. This beginning with the feet, contacting the floor, noticing sensations of that contact. And as we feel into the feet, as we notice that, maybe just imagining just extending the energy of the body down into the earth a bit, just feeling the stability of the earth under the feet. The body's strong and stable like a mountain as we're rooted in the earth. As gravity tugs on the body and this chair and on these feet, and this gently holds us here on this beautiful planet, Mother Earth. And as we connect with the earth, I like to just give a gentle reminder of how this human body is made up of earth elements. The air, the water, the food, sunshine, the earth. And of course, we know through science, we have a whole community of microbiome that lives and supports this body. So this body is not separate from the earth. It's a community of relationships that give a rise to this experience of this mind and body. We're deeply interconnected, interdependent to the whole community of life. And just giving gratitude for all that sustains us. The air, the water, the food, the beauty of the earth, the human systems that sustain so much of our life. It's being grounded in this present experience of aliveness, of awakeness. And any joy you may notice from that, just bringing that into the body, feeling into the peace, the appreciation, the gratitude of this moment of aliveness. Even if there is in the midst of the body having unpleasant experiences. You can notice that and let it be. You don't need to push that away. So just resting in the body right now and coming back into the feet, noticing sensations there, coming up through the calves, the knees, the thighs, and just noticing the sits bones, the contact between the sits bones and the chair, the cushion. And just being with the coming and going of sensations of that contact between the sits bones and the chair. And just releasing and relaxing into the experience of sensation in the body. And bringing the attention up from sits bones up through the hips, the lower back, coming up along the spine to the middle back and ribs. Feeling into the ribs as we inhale and exhale. And this simple practice of being with the sensations of the body, cultivate present moment attention, mindfulness of this moment, awareness of this moment. And coming up through the middle back, up into the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades and the tops of the shoulders, and now just releasing any contraction, tension in the shoulders, the upper back, the middle back, the lower back, and hips. Just inviting the shoulders, back, and hips to soften, soothe, and rest. Soften, soothe, and rest. Now sensing into the front of the body, noticing the abdomen as it rises and falls, being with sensations there in the abdomen. Feeling into the presence of the body as we just rest attention in the sensation of the body, feeling this groundedness. As we connect to the body, we're connecting with the earth. And we're connecting with really a community of infinite relationships. The earth is made up of stardust. Stardust is constituted into this body. So we're just a microcosm of this infinite universe. And it's being present to the grandiosity of this experience of aliveness. Feeling into the chest. Inviting the chest and the abdomen to soften, soothe, and rest as we inhale and exhale. And then coming up again into the shoulders, noticing sensations in the shoulders, and in particular the left shoulder, dropping down the left arm, down into the left hand, and just noticing sensations in the palm of the hand, the fingers, the fingertips. Maybe noticing the contact between the hand, your other hand, or your leg, wherever it's resting. Bringing the attention back up the left arm, left shoulder over into the right shoulder. And it's dropping down through the right upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, down into that right hand, palm, the fingers, the fingertips. Tension up through the right arm, up into the shoulders, sensing into the neck, back of the neck, sides of the neck, the jaw, the throat, the tongue, chin. Just inviting that whole area of the neck, throat, jaw to soften, soothe, and rest. Soften, soothe, and rest. Sensing into the throat, the tongue, chin, the cheeks, the lips, on the nose itself, the eyes and brow, forehead. And just inviting all the muscles in the face to just soften, and let go of any subtle contractions of the facial muscles. And rest. Finally inviting the top of the head, the scalp, sides of the head, back of the head, and the ears, the neck. Soften, soothe, and rest. And then just bringing attention once again back to the whole of the body. And just being present with the experience of resting attention in the body. There's no need to place the attention in any particular place. Just a general awareness of the experience of the body, sensations of the body. That's resting. Soften, soothe, and rest. And now we'll move into a brief breathing practice and just take 5 consecutive breaths. And as you exhale, on the first exhale, just silently counting 1, and then each following exhale, counting 2, 3, up to 5 breaths, and then we'll shift to just being with the sensation of the breath, and I'll guide you in that. But just beginning with the silent counting of 5 out breaths. Just letting go and softening on each exhale. Now we'll continue with breath awareness. And if you want, just being aware of the sensation of the breath, and maybe it could be the whole of the upper body. That's one method. Or if you'd like, noticing where it's easiest to follow the sensation of in-breath and out-breath, and that might be at the abdomen, or the sensations at the chest, maybe the sensations in the nose. And again, you may just sense into the whole upper body as you inhale and exhale. So just tuning into the place where you can naturally sense into the experience of in and out breath in the body. Once you've kind of located the place that's easiest to follow the sensation of the breath, pay particular attention to the beginning of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath, and then the sensations that connect all of that. So there's a particular noticing of the beginning of both the in-breath and the out-breath, and this helps to stabilize attention and reduce wandering of attention. Just resting inside the sensation of the breath. There's no need to visualize a particular part of the body that you're focusing on. Once you've located where you can tune into the sensation, just rest the attention within the sensation itself. No image is required, just being directly within the sensation as we inhale and exhale. And resting the attention there. Just pausing for a moment and checking into the body and noticing you're just starting with the face or the jaw. If there's any contraction or tightness there, just inviting those areas to soften and rest. Noticing any tension in the neck or the shoulders, the arms and the hands. Soften, soothe, and rest. And go of any tension in the upper back, shoulder blades, the lower back, the hips. Soften, soothe, and rest. And just coming back into the breath now in the body, wherever it's easiest for you to track that. And just resting in that sensation of in breath and out breath. Just resting. Now, when attention wanders, as it naturally does in these practices, there's a moment of forgetting that we're intending to be with the breath. And then there's a moment of remembering that we wanted to be with the breath, and we wake back up. And in that moment of waking up to the mind wandering, we congratulate ourselves for having remembered. And then we gently just bring the attention back to the sensation of the breath, and we do this over and over again. So there's no judgment. Mind wandering is part of the practice. Waking up to the wandering is part of the practice. And coming back to the object of attention of the breath. Now we'll shift into a loving kindness practice. And kind of warm the emotional body up. Just imagine someplace in nature where you feel comfortable and safe, surrounded by the beauty of nature. Just could be a created space or maybe a favorite place that you've gone. And just imagine walking into that space, that place. And maybe there's a chair there or a spot on the ground that you'd like to sit. Just observe through your vision, this place, this space, the colors, the patterns, textures of light and shadow. And just take it in, appreciating this beauty of this place. And just feeling into the gratitude for having had this experience, be in this safe place, and be surrounded by this beauty. And just taking in any feelings of joy or upliftment or safety, just breathing that into the heart. And filling every cell of the body with this joy and beauty of this natural place, space, nature. And maybe there's sounds there that bring joy to the heart. Sounds of the wind or the water, or sounds of birds or insects, sounds of distant thunder, whatever it might be. It's breathing in the beauty, sounds of this place, of this space. Just feeling that in the heart and the body, this upliftment, this joy. And just wishing for all beings to be able to experience this beauty and this joy. I'll repeat a few words that you can just kind of follow along with to support loving kindness. We'll begin with ourselves. May I be happy and joyful in this moment. Just inviting in that possibility. May I be happy and joyful in this moment. I have gratitude and joy just resting in this body that's connected to this vast earth and cosmos. May this body and mind be healthy. And I know peace in all my relationships. May I be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May I live with ease. And this, imagining this goodwill, this kindness that maybe we've touched a bit, just imagining this radiating out from our heart, from our body, to the front, to the back, to the left, to the right, above and below, and we'll extend this kindness to all beings across this vast universe. And I'll provide the phrases, and then I'll tap the bell at the end of each phrase to just kind of help us have a sense of this wish of kindness to radiate out in all directions. May all beings be happy and joyful. May all beings be healthy in mind, healthy in body, healthy in spirit. May all beings know inner peace and peace in their relationships. Beings be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May all beings may I be free from suffering and live with ease. And one final short practice here. This is called Tonglen. It says, whatever problems occur in your life, instead of reacting to them in the usual habitual way, you could transform them into the path of the compassionate heart. That is to say, you could awaken your compassionate and open heart. To do this, the approach is bringing to mind some difficult situation, some difficult emotion, some difficult event or situation, and breathe it in, and then breathe out, wishing that all beings suffering from a similar problem, challenge, could be free from it. So we're breathing in our own pain and exhaling the wish for all beings to be free of this type of pain. We breathe again, breathing in that pain. As we exhale, sending loving kindness to all suffering beings that they might be free. And then just closing, feeling the breath in the belly. Feeling the feet on the floor. Taking a few deep breaths, wiggling the toes and the fingers. I thought I'd just say have a few words here, and then we can open up a discussion if there's anything anybody would like to share. There's a book that I'm quoting from here a bit. It's called Essential Spirituality by Roger Walsh. And this is chapter 5 called The Secret of Happiness. And Roger is an interesting person, a good teacher. And this particular book draws from all of the different contemplative, spiritual, religious traditions, the primary traditions in the world, including Confucianism and Taoism and Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, Christianity. And he talks about one root of a lot of suffering, which is craving. And when he talks about it, he's speaking that we humans, we're embedded in our sense perceptions, and we seek happiness, we seek pleasure often in life. And that's a wonderful thing, but our pleasure seeking can move into the place of addiction at a certain point. And those addictions can be all sorts of things. They can be food, success, it can be sexual gratification, might be various substances, whatever it might be, and they become a pacifier. They're a way for us to entertain ourselves and maybe distract ourselves from maybe a sense of isolation or not being enough. And as many of us know, we've read probably in the papers, there's many very, very, very wealthy people who are no happier than people with much less. Now, granted, there's a certain level of basic goods and support that we need to live a good life, but at a certain point, more doesn't necessarily bring more happiness. And it can be a treadmill. I know one of my teaching friends, Donald Rothburn, used to say he had this experience of, he loves baklava, and his roommate loved to cook baklava every Sunday. And he was saying how, that first baklava was so good, and the second one was wonderful, and then the third one was not quite the same, and the fourth one, by the time he hit the fifth baklava, it was like, I don't want to have any more baklava for a while. So we know when we have an initial pleasure, too much of it then can become an unpleasant experience. So what Walsh talks about here is there a happiness that's an enduring happiness? And most of the religious traditions, contemplative traditions, would point to cultivating the capacity to experience a sense of self that is outside of a concept of me as a person, as a separate being, and resting in what they call the ground of being, or just resting in awareness, which is what this practice today, we're hoping that we touch that a bit. And it can be puzzling, because as I've worked with this stuff throughout my life, it's especially in the early years, I thought, how can I experience something outside of thought, outside of a thought of me and the world? It's like there'd be nothing there if I wasn't thinking. But as we move into practice and we cultivate the capacity to simply rest in the body and awareness itself, thoughts tend to slow down. And at first it can feel a little off-putting. It's like, well, nothing's happening. Of course, then you're thinking again. I'm thinking about nothing happening. But as we cultivate that, we begin to realize that in that deep resting state, there's actually an intelligence there. It's not a thinking cognitive intelligence of A plus B equals C. It's simply present moment awareness that is very open-hearted and empathetic. It's not coming from a place of separateness of what's in it for me in this moment, or how do I have to navigate to protect myself? It's just aware. And you see this as, so it's a quality of awareness that can be cultivated. And it takes time to trust in it. It takes a lifetime, I think. Because our habitual way of reacting from our conditioning, from our memory, and all that is so powerful and so rote. So it takes practice to start to notice this direct way of seeing that's not mediated so much by our analytical mind or judgmental mind, but more of our open heart. And it's interesting, as people do, research has shown as people do these practices more and more, the brain does rewire itself. We shift from the part of the brain that is dominant around seeing separate reality, an us and them reality, and it moves more to the quality of the brain that looks at interconnectedness, looks at relationships. And so naturally, when that part of the brain that is looking at me fitting into a larger context, compassion and empathy naturally start to arise, because the sense of a separate self tends to soften. And our reactivity to whatever is coming up from the separate self isn't as dominant. It's there. Our old patterns may come up, but we see that they're a pattern and not the whole who we are. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that. And these practices have the power to open us to this direct way of knowing that this allows us to really appreciate, the moment, to just look out at my bird feeder and just, even though I don't yell at squirrels quite so much as I laugh at the squirrels with their acrobatics, but just appreciating, the moment. Today I was outside and I was just really, I think I said earlier, just appreciating the rain, just the miracle of rain, and how we don't have rain, it's a bit of a problem. But this whole system, works so beautifully together. It's quite amazing. And the body. I've been reading more about the microbiome. I want to learn more about this, that half of our cells, not half of our body, I just think, but half of our cells are not human cells, so-called human cells. So there's this whole community that we are part of, we're not separate from. So I'll pause there. Any questions, comments about practice, about bringing this into daily life? I can share a little bit what I try, and maybe you can give me some lessons as well. We're all wisdom keepers here. So if you're online, you can unmute if you'd like to say anything. And if you don't have anything to say, that's quite fine as well. I'll ask one question about the Tonglen practice. I shared that today, and you can look that up. I think it's Tonglin, Tonglen. It's a taking and giving practice. Pema Chodron has some good stuff on that. And it's an interesting practice. I know some of the cognitive psychology people that have worked in compassion practice talk about this quality of recognizing when I'm in pain, it's depression or anger or fear or anxiety, whatever it is, to acknowledge that this is a common emotion. It's not like I'm the only one that's ever experienced this. If we just think for a moment, it's like, oh, this is pervasive. And in that moment of recognizing it's pervasive, there's a sense, what they call it is we shift from an isolated sense of self to one of common humanity. That, oh, this is common. So that place of feeling isolated, alone, contracted, going deeper into the hole of whatever it might be, opens up. And this Tonglen practice, where it sounds counterintuitive, I'm going to actually breathe in this. Now I'm suffering, and now you want me to breathe in everybody's suffering? That sounds really not like a good idea. And if you're really overwhelmed, it might not be. You need to be in somewhat of a balanced place for that. You might have to just do like we did the nature practice to soothe the system, get the body in a place of balance, of seeing yourself in nature where you feel calm enough to do something like that. In the midst of being totally overwhelmed until you're good with the practice, that you might want to pause a little until you have some balance. But that capacity to breathe in, and when we're breathing it in, we're not taking it on. It's almost like some have described it, almost it's like a purification. As we breathe it in and then we exhale out, the healing of all beings of that affliction, whatever it might be. And that's very empowering. It shifts from I'm alone and isolated to I'm transforming this quality and healing all beings. What a shift in the relationship to that moment of suffering. So it's a very powerful practice. And I'll probably introduce that in more detail as we go throughout the months here, because I've done it some, but I think at this time in society, it's real helpful because it can just feel like too much with all that's happening, all we're inundated with. So any parts of the practice that you have questions on, or comments? Yes, Joel.
Yeah, I'll just jump in quick and say that I really liked that you mentioned the kind of part about becoming accustomed to pleasure and about how that can kind of trap you in a loop, because I've been trying to do a little bit of looking into, I guess, like philosophy of life type stuff. And when reading some like books about Stoicism and like Epicureanism, that's kind of a central focus, is the idea that if you spend all your time, chasing after some pleasure, that it's going to eventually become just kind of rote and you won't really notice it as much anymore. So I guess kind of recognizing that and trying to actively take steps to, notice the good things that you already have and not keep wanting more has been a pretty, I guess, important part of my own development recently.
That's great. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Stoicism, because there's been more and more writing on how Stoicism and this particular practice of Buddhism, the philosophy, are very, very similar. Very resonant. And it's true with most of the contemplative traditions of the world religions. The contemplatives come to fairly similar conclusions. They have different names. One might say the ground of being, or enlightenment, or God, or the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. But they're describing something that is seemingly much more expansive than the separate sense of the ego self. But I think nature as well, it's not true for everyone. Some people are disdaining nature because there's bugs out there. But, and it can be. I remember running through the woods in terror a few times when deer flies were attacking me. I was not in love with nature. That's pretty good a point. I was fighting with nature. But on a calmer day, nature can be very powerful. As we know, there's all sorts of chemicals that the trees are emitting that boost our feelings of well-being. But most trees don't speak rudely to us, or a bush doesn't reject us for not having the right clothing on or looking the right way. It's a total receiving environment. And if you're into art at all, I mean, the beauty, the natural patterns of nature can be quite beautiful. Some people, again, it takes walk. Some people, they don't notice the trees or anything. It's just there. But I think that's anything that can connect us to a larger sense of self. I mean, looking up at the stars can be pretty amazing. Or watching the solar eclipse that'll be coming up, gives us a sense of a larger sense of being part of a much bigger entity. Well, any final questions? Well, it's about that time. And just a reminder, April 13, Saturday. There'll be a free retreat at Unitarian Universalist Church on Shaver Road in Portage. And I believe if you put UU or Unitarian Church Portage, you can find our website and there'll be information there to register. If you don't register, feel free to show up at 9:30 on the 13th. Bring your bag lunch and Christian or Matt if you want. And it should be a nice day of practice and community. So thank you again. Hope to see you in a couple weeks. And I guess the 13th, but it's not this weekend, but the following weekend. So
Yeah.
I hopefully I'll be there. Hopefully I'll get it right. So I'll figure it out by then. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye-bye.